I came in, it was super clear that I really wanted this badly. And one of those ways was practice. Anybody that I could get around that had more experience in this than I did, I was practicing the script with.
We are here to chat with you all about some of our experiences as we started our journey in the insurance industry. And we wanted to give you some tips and tricks so that we can kind of let our hindsight be your foresight. Wanted to give you some things that we maybe did that we thought went well, and we would continue to do that and have continued to do that. And it's brought great success. We also want to talk about some of the things that maybe was a little bit of a misstep that we wish that we either didn't do right off the bat, and then also maybe some things that we wish we started sooner. So I wanted to kind of start with talking about the idea of communication with your mentorship in this business. I would say that if I was to really go back to some of the things that I really felt was a strong start to my career, I would say leveraging other people that I knew were doing really well and asking them for their advice and asking them for their coaching and really trying to invest time into building relationships with those people was such a substantial element to me being able to cut my learning curve down. And really, honestly, the only reason I was able to write policies within my very first week and my very first day in the field was because of those relationships. So I would say if I was to think about what is something that went really well would be that. And then if I was to think about maybe the other end of the spectrum of something that I wish I could have done sooner, you're probably going to hear this as a common theme. Man, I wish that I was more intentional about developing my insurance agency faster. But not only that, I wish I was more intentional about growing myself as a leader and some of the personal development signs of our business. So, boys, I wanted to start it with that. I wanted to send it your way. I know we've all been in here. I'm 9 years in. Ryan, Ashton, how long have you been in the insurance industry for at this point?
Man, I'm coming up on 7 July of 2018 that I wrote my first application.
We'll be at almost 5 years.
So, and I know, we're not supposed to date it. So I guess, I started in July of 2016. But point being is you got people that have been in here for many years and have kind of seen all the good, the bad, the ugly of it. So I guess, Ashton, let me send it your way, man. If you kind of think back to like the whole, if I was going to step in a time machine and go back to, Ashton 5 years ago, I mean, what are you telling him?
Yeah, like you said, one of the biggest things that's so great is leaning on your mentor, your upline. I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces. And even outside of that, it's just really how much activity is key. You have to put in massive amounts of activity and not worry so much on the skill side, at least in the beginning. That changes after your first 60, 90, 120 days. After you've been in the business for a few months, now it's not so much about just make sure you keep doing more activity, but refining your skill within that activity in order to increase your results. But in the beginning, that activity is such a major, major key that needs to be focused on. So that's probably one of the biggest pieces of focusing on better going back to back then. Everyone always says if you're building a business, it's always building sooner. But I think that the number one thing that I've really seen that drastically changes the learning curve for an agent is activity outside of work hours, activity outside of dialing clients, activity outside of running appointments. It's good to go get your live reps in. It's good to get actual game time. However, getting the practice in beforehand, that is such a major piece that most people don't do. And even the people that do it don't do it very well. They don't do enough. And so that's probably one of the biggest things of going back and going, man, it's actually getting in more practice before trying to get a live rep. So that way my learning curve is a lot shorter and I have success quicker.
I remember Ashton sort of coming into the industry and being really competitive and being really hungry. And my answer to Grant, your question about like leveraging or your example of leveraging your mentors or leveraging leadership in your agency or leveraging top producers, in order to leverage leadership or top producers or to get direct one-on-one help, you kind of have to be doing something. Right? Because there's so many people that come into our industry and don't do anything. And then they just want everybody's time and they just like suck down time and then don't ever put any work in and don't ever actually like move their feet. And I think that's one thing, Grant, like when you came in, you were hustling, you were calling, you were practicing, you were showing. It was very obvious that you wanted to do this. I think the same thing with Ashton. I think the same thing with me is like when I came in, it was super clear that I really wanted this badly. And one of those ways was what Ashton just talked about, practice. Anybody that I could get around that had more experience in this than I did, I was practicing the script with. I was overcoming objections with. I was like, hey, when you get this objection, how do you overcome it? I was writing their answers down. I was, hey, do you mind if I run that back with you real quick? And I would run it back with them for 2 minutes. And I would get these top producers that would give me their gems, like, and they're willing to do it because they see that I'm actually doing the work and I'm showing up and I'm on camera and I'm asking questions and I'm present and I'm engaged. And like, my wife knew the script as well as I knew the script because I practiced with her so many times, and she knew how to play the role of a client and like how to give me objections and stuff like that so I could practice and I could get better because I was doing it while I was making dinner and taking out the trash and doing laundry and putting the kids to bed. And like, I practiced this so much that it was impossible for me to not have success. Like, I got so many reps in that were, air reps. It was just like, man, I knew exactly what I was doing when I started calling people. And so that allowed me to leverage the people that were, I guess, more experienced than me or had been in more time than me. That allowed me to go to Eric Fabula and Griff Martin and, Edward Pritchett and, these people that I could lean on and just be like, hey, you see me moving here. You see me showing up on some leaderboards. You see me engaged in your meeting. You're saying my name. And can I get 3 minutes? Can I run this by you? And being prepared to actually have something constructive to go over with them at all times, was really important. I would put one extra thing on that, man. And it was like, I've now been on the opposite side of this. I think both of you have too as well, where you have people that come to you and they're like, hey man, how do I do this? And then you give them a response, and then they do something completely different. And then they come back to you like 2 weeks later and they're like, hey man, I'm still struggling. It's like, yeah, you didn't do what I told you to do. Like, why would I give you another piece of advice? So what I did really well is I made sure immediately, as fast as I could, put whatever advice I got right into work and then send a text message to that person back to just say, hey, thank you so much for that. I used that objection. I got that objection response. I set an appointment with it today. So helpful. I appreciate you. So like, I thank you for giving me your time, and actually showed them that I was using what they gave me. And it was such a difference when people feel the appreciation of their time being poured into you. So I would just say, like, do something, have your feet moving, like actually want this, practice your butt off in the beginning, and that's going to get you time with those top producers.
Yeah. I think it's important to know, like, if we always kind of like to say, like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And you got to make sure that you're being a good student, because regardless of what model you're in, if you're in a model that has phenomenal support, you might not be someone who's really supportable, if that kind of makes sense. Like, if you're not doing what these people are advising, like, if you think about you being the coach or you trying to help somebody out, and you feel like you're just banging your head against the wall, continuously giving them some advice and coaching and training, that's probably very good advice if they were to take it, and then they just consistently say, oh, okay, that sounds good. And they come back to you 2 weeks later and they've never really implemented it. So that's another thing, is like, when you're first starting out, whether you're first starting out in the middle, it doesn't really matter where you are in your journey, is really just leveraging that advice and actually implementing it is so crucial. So I kind of wanted to go back, I want to go down memory lane. And I remember there's that like nervous excitement when you think back to your first like week on the phones. But I think back to like my first day dial in, and I remember I had this desk that I found like in the alley. So, I'm 21, I'm in college, senior year of college. We're living in this house, super old place, and people would like throw all their trash in like the back alley. The
Yeah.
trash cans were all
Yeah.
back there. And I remember this person left this like desk, and it was like fairly splintered and banged up, but it looked salvageable. And I remember I took the desk and I, tried to sand it down. I would put it next to my bed, and my bed was my desk chair, and I had this dumpster desk that was that was what I used. And I think I'm sitting there, and I remember they always told me to triple dial. And you get a lead, call it, let it go to voicemail, call it, let it go to voicemail. And I remember just sitting there, and I'd make the first dial no problem, and I'd hesitate a little bit on the second dial, and I was just petrified to make that third dial. I was like, they're gonna answer and tell me to never call them again, and this, that, and the other. And I remember that first week, that first day on the phones, I booked 6 appointments, and we went out in the field, and I remember that 4 of them showed up, and I wrote 2. And I remember that very first home you're driving up to, and I was talking to my mentor, and I'm getting out of the car, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know what to do. I thought I studied the scripts. I thought I studied the presentation, but I'm just so lost. And he's like, dude, just go make a friend. He's like, just go make a friend. You'll figure it out. And I get in there. It was a couple of the daughters of this lady that wanted to get insurance. They were sitting there, and the mom was like in the other room. And I was like, hey, is she like gonna come out? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, so you guys handle this then, right? And then they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So we kind of dig in, and she's like in there, like on oxygen, essentially on her deathbed, unfortunately. And they're trying to get her some coverage. And this is my very first appointment. I'm sitting in front of these people, don't really know what I'm doing. They definitely are not going to qualify for the product I thought they would qualify for going into this. And so I reach out, I ask for help, and was able to get some advice. Didn't write it, but was a good learning opportunity. And then I remember going to drive to my second house, the sweet lady, and we were going through it. Once again, I'm sitting at the table. Like, I think I kind of know the path. Luckily, she was in good health. It was like an equity protection, but I got stuck. And so I 911. I got Miranda Martin to jump on the phone with me. She got on speaker with the client for like 30 minutes, explained the whole thing, fixed everything that I screwed up. I even had to like go home and print out an accidental death app that I didn't have. So like I wrote the one app, drove home, printed out the app, came back, wrote the second one, and got that done. And hey, 9 years later, it's still on the books. Man, I just remember that first day, that first week, and like, God, in so many ways, I wish I could go back, but in so many ways, I'm so glad that I'm far from that. But I just think, I wish that people looking at this either for the first time or people that just got started, and I wish they just take it seriously because, like, you're gonna get beat up early. It happens to all of us, but like, what's on the other side of getting beat up is so much better than any other job that I'm aware of. So I'd be curious to know your guys' kind of your first memory of this business was.
Go for it, Ashton.
Man, I think the biggest thing for me in the beginning, never doing anything like this before. Didn't come from a background of sales. I was a server in a restaurant. So really just doing something new for the very first time, man, is this gonna work or is it not? Doing something completely different out of a comfort zone, no similar experience at all. And really just putting in activity. Hey, I just have to do more and eventually it will follow. And that was the number one key. I started kind of part-time in the beginning, virtually, and didn't go many places. I booked 34 appointments and didn't make a sale virtually, and then went back and started in person, and then everything changed. And I was able to go do about 37,000 in 4 weeks, all in person in that first month. So just really seeing how if you put the activity in and that's what you focus on, the results are going to follow as long as there is a good, reliable, tested, proven system. You just have to put the activity in and learn it, and those results are eventually going to follow as long as that activity is there. And for everyone, it's a different level of activity. You might come in and you're naturally pretty good. You may need less activity to get the result you're looking for. But I've seen some pretty bad people that are really, really bad at this job. They stuck at it long enough and put in enough activity and practiced enough and put in enough hours, then eventually they became good. So you just have to decide, like, where are you at? Are you the one that, hey, maybe you kind of just naturally pick things up and put enough until it's there? Or maybe you are really horrible. Maybe you're the worst person that's ever done this in the history of insurance. Well, that just means it's going to take more activity from you. It's going to take more time from you. I mean, think about the good old Rudy, good old school movie. Not the most talented, not the most gifted, not the most skilled, but no one outworked. And eventually the time to shine was there. It's the same thing. Hey, you might not be the best, but as long as no one outworks you, you're going to be able to get to where you want to be. And that was probably the number one thing that I really remembered from the beginning was if I have the activity, anything else and everything else will follow.
Yeah, man. Like when I came into the insurance industry, I had already been in in-home sales for like 10 years. I was training salespeople. Like I knew how to operate in an in-home sales environment. I'd been selling home improvement and windows and doors and, outdoor living. And if I went back to like the beginning of my, in-home sales career, I could probably tell you some struggles and things like that. But like when I came into this industry, I, had no problem setting appointments. I was really good because I had been working with these clients for years, right? And I sold my first appointment that I sat on, and like I was cruising. But I don't say that to gloat if you're listening to this right now and you're struggling. I've onboarded hundreds of people now into this industry, and I can tell you there just are two groups of people. There's some people that get it right away, and there's some people that it takes a little while for them to get it. And there's this mix of skills and finesse and, to be quite honest, luck. I've had some really skilled people that really understood what we were doing and got the finesse of talking about somebody dying and talking about being there for them in their time of need and what it would be like for their family. and just ran into kind of a string of bad luck, of bad leads, and had to wait for the winds to change. Like, sales is an up and down roller coaster, right? It does this up and down and up and down and up and down. And I don't know if you're going to come in on the down or if you're going to come in on the up. Like, I have no idea what part of this roller coaster you're going to get on. Right? And so it's like I've spent my time now watching the people that instantly win continue to help them push on the gas, because it's really easy to have a tortoise and the hare effect where you slow down and you kind of kick your feet up, and then all of a sudden you hit a down and you go real far down because you were already chilling when things were up. And now they're down and people leave the business that way. And then helping the people that I know can do this, that have everything, that are doing the work and showing up and have the practice and have the script down and have all the rebuttals down and they get it, just stick through the down long enough to where they start hitting the luck, or they start hitting the percentages of leads that are going to close no matter what, and the percentages of appointments that they just feel confident in, and they can sell right away and they can get referrals from and all those things. And so it's really a game of that. I don't know if you're going to win fast or if you're going to win slow, but I know that both of them are equally as plausible and both of them can equally take you out of the business, right? And so for me, I didn't really struggle when I came in, but probably because I put in all that work before I got here.
Yeah, we want to get that on you, Ryan. I didn't really struggle when I
Let
started
let
here,
me throw this out
Federico.
there. Here's what I did struggle with, was issuing business, because I could go in and, like, all the other industries that I was in, I just had to sell. And like then the construction team came in and they built out the windows and the doors, and like all I had to do was just sell. I didn't actually have to worry if like the product got approved. It's like, as I got them approved for their credit application, my job was done, right? So when I came in, I just had appointments, no problem. I could go out and sit in somebody's house and I could sell them and sell the sizzle of them getting insurance. But then I was selling a bunch of products that nobody qualified for. I think my first couple of months, I probably wrote like 40 or $50,000. I think like 8 of it got issued or something. And so I had to be really diligent about learning underwriting, calling underwriters, running my client cases by some people, and not just thinking that I could go in and sell whatever and hope for the best. And so I got really good at underwriting. Today, people on my team are like, Ryan's a savant at underwriting. I'm only a savant at underwriting because I had to figure it out. Otherwise, I wasn't going to stay in this business, right? I can do everything else. So I don't know. It might be a different part of this business that you struggle with. For me, it was net placed. It was issuing business and keeping business on the books. But once I got that dialed in, everything was kind of home free.
Yeah. No, that's fair. And the learning curve it's so different for everybody because the background you have is going to really dictate if you maybe have some of those kind of natural sales ability, or maybe you're used to that type of environment. Other people maybe came in. What I think is really impressive is how many people did not come in with a background in sales, or they weren't in like even a customer service, like they weren't in like a people business. And then they're just able to thrive in kind of this very heavy communication based people business, creating value where maybe there isn't value, and especially with the product that we offer. I mean, insurance is so weird because, like, yes, we have living benefits. Yes, we have like cash accumulation that people can leverage while they're living. But generally speaking, this is a product that people are going to purchase for somebody else, and they're not going to see the benefit of it. Like, and it's not a tangible thing. Like, you can't touch or see, it's kind of like, Ryan, you're talking to, do you talk to your money? Like, you can talk to it, but it's not really going to talk back at you. And so I just think that's one thing where if you're newer, or you're trying to look at like, what are some of the things that successful agents maybe did when they started. I think it really just comes down to they were diligent about leveraging the support system that they had in place. They were diligent about the activity. And if you can check both of those boxes, you're going to be okay. Like, if we look at anyone that really we see come in and not work out here, always falls under the category of they either didn't put in the work or they weren't coachable, because you can do the work. It's like driving a car really fast. You can drive a car super fast. You go in the wrong direction, you're never going to get where you're going. Or you can be doing the work, but then you're never asking for help, and that's what happens. Or you're just not doing the work and you're not asking for help, or maybe you're asking for help but then not implementing the help. So it's like you got to do both of it. And I was having a conversation today with someone who has, had a lot of success early on, her first few months in the business, and these last couple of weeks she hit a little bit of a hurdle. And what we were talking through is, number one, there's going to be parts of this business that do have that, and you have to understand that there's a pipeline and there's an ebb and flow. And so that's why You don't want to let your highs get too high so your lows don't get too lows. But the other part of that is making sure that you're always doing 100% of the things right, because this is kind of trippy. You could do 85% of the things right, and you might think you'd get 85% of the results. You could get 0% of the results for doing 85% right. You have to do 100% of the right activity and the right coaching to make sure you're doing the right activity in order to get any part of the result. So I just think when people come on, it's a simple thing. It's not easy, but it's a simple thing, and people really just complicate it.
We're given one parting piece of advice, because I agree with that 100%. For anybody listening to this that has a significant other, get them involved. And I'm not necessarily saying add them to your agency. Like, my wife doesn't work on a day-to-day in the agency, is our agency together, but she doesn't work on a day-to-day in the agency. She does something else professionally. But I needed to get her involved to help me stay accountable, because, for a little while there, it was just me kind of white knuckling it and freewheeling it and not really keeping myself accountable with the people that see me all the time. And so it was real easy for me. I did have the tortoise and the hare thing that went on. That's why I know it happens, because I hit this early success and then I kind of kicked my feet up and I was like, I'm a business owner. I can make pancakes on Saturday and not make dials, or I have freedom of schedule. I got work-life balance, and you can work-life balance yourself right to a negative balance. And so, like, I needed my wife to help me stay committed. I needed my kids to know, like, hey, Friday I'm dialing. And if you see me out of my office before 7 p.m., get me back in there. We're doing pizza movie night at 7. And if you see me out of my office before 7, get me back in there, right? And with my wife, hey, don't let me start messing around and like cleaning out the garage and putting stuff away on Saturday morning. Like, I need to be making calls to these clients and setting appointments so that I can make money. No different than if you were just messing around at the house on Monday at 10 a.m. and you needed to be in the office at 9 a.m., your boss is going to be like, where are you? I needed to convey that to someone who's never worked in a commission-based business owner position. And getting my spouse involved was probably one of the biggest cheat codes, I think, of my early career.
And the number one It's thing is good. just, like you said, making sure to get the activity in. However you have to do it. Whether someone holds you accountable, you hold yourself accountable. It's just getting the activity. You have to do that day in, day out, week in, week out. Otherwise, you'll never get to where you want to be. And the more you put in, the quicker you get where you want. It's that simple. So you just have to decide, how long do you want to take to get to where you want to be?
Well, guys, we hope that you're all developing your first week, first day stories here. We hope that it goes, maybe smoother than mine. But at the end of the day, we hope you just get the results that you want out of this thing. We can promise you that if you're doing the work and you're getting counsel, you're doing massive action and constant correction, you are going to get what you want out of this business if you do it long enough. So we are wishing you all the success in the world in developing those good habits from the beginning. And even if you're not at the beginning, you can always go back and make a little shake up to get yourself recalibrated. So with that, we will catch you here next time. Please make sure to drop us a little comment. Maybe tell us what your first day was, in the field. What was your first day like running appointments, booking appointments? Like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you next time.
Later, everybody.
Cheers.